Welcome to Prayer Points for the Harvest, a weekly communication designed to equip you to pray for the fulfillment of the Great Commission. This is Jonathan Soloria. As we go out into the harvest to share the gospel, we're quickly going to realize just how weak and inadequate our own efforts are. There's simply more harvest than any of us is ever capable of bringing in on our own. Better than anyone, Jesus recognized this, which is why he invested in disciples. And in Luke chapter 10, verses 1 and 2, he gives the strategy by which sufficient workers can be sent out to bring in the harvest that is ready. In Luke 10, Jesus says, "After this, the Lord appointed 72 others and sent them on ahead of him, 2 by 2, into every town and place where he himself was about to go. And he said to them, 'The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest.'" When we see the harvest that is ready, our first temptation is to attempt to send out more workers ourselves. Yet this is not what Jesus instructs us to do. Rather, Jesus instructs us to go to the Lord of the harvest and ask him to send out workers. You see, we cannot send out sufficient workers in our power and authority. Only God can send out sufficient workers in his. When we send out workers, we send them out with our blessing, with our resource, with our energy. But ours is not enough. We need workers going out with God's energy, God's power, God's grace, because only workers sent out in his grace can give the grace that's required to others. In this passage, Jesus sends them out in pairs, not just alone, but in teams of 2. And these 2, Jesus says, are to go into villages and share the gospel. But as they go, not just share, but ask God to send out more workers. As we pray for God to open up doors for us to share our faith with our family and friends, we must never neglect praying for God to send out more workers so that they can share with theirs. Recently, a team in Colorado has caught this vision. Several years ago, John White and Kenny Moore met in a coffee shop for breakfast, and they immediately agreed to begin praying together the prayer of Luke 10:2. Daily, for the next 30 months, they texted each other or called one another, and they prayed this prayer: "Lord, send out more workers into your harvest." And the results have been overwhelming. Since they've been praying that prayer, some 200 to 300 other teams of people have started praying it with them. And they've seen in Colorado, the state in which they live, the establishment of no less than 100 churches. God calls us to pray, and not only to pray for our needs, but to pray for the harvest. And not only for the harvest, but for God to send out more workers into his harvest. I challenge you this week to pray for God to send out more workers into his harvest, to pray that God would number you among the workers that he sends, that you would pray for someone who can partner with and encourage you in sharing the gospel, that you would pray for the opportunity to train the workers that God is sending, and be sure to thank God for being the Lord of the harvest, for the harvest is his, and that means that the success is ours.